Hello everyone, and welcome to the new episode about editing with Darktable. A lot of time has passed since my last episode because I have a lot of work to do and I've been using my free time to test new things that will eventually come into the next versions of the Darktable. We'll talk about that when the time comes. In this episode, we'll talk a little bit about a module that has been in Darktable for a long time but hasn't gotten enough attention, even though it can be quite useful. So let's talk a little bit about color lookup table module. What is color lookup table in Darktable? There is quite powerful module that can be used for color mapping and color grading. It gives us the possibility to transform specific source colors in our image to desired target colors. When combined with Darktable chart, this module can be used for replicating the color processing of specific cameras or film stocks. But we don't want to do that here. What we want to do is to see how can we use this module directly for color corrections and artistic color grading effects. So, how can we do that? As you can see, the module presents us a grid of 24 colored patches of classic color checker, and these patches represent our source colors. Those source colors can be changed to target colors by using those 4 sliders that we have here. And because the color lookup table works in LAB color space, we have corresponding sliders for that. We have lightness, we have A channel, magenta, green offset, and blue, B channel, blue, yellow offset, and saturation channel. And we can now click on one of the patches, for example, this one, first one, and now we can change or make some changes with those sliders to the target color. If we made a mistake, we can reset that by double click on the particular patch. And if we make some changes and go to the next one, you see those patches that have been changed from source to the target color, we can see now outline there. Okay, but let me reset that. The best way to use the color lookup table is to pick up some colors that we want to adjust from our photo itself. For example, we can now use color picker and move around, and you can see color lookup table will give us indication about the nearest color to that particular area, but we can use exactly that color just by pressing Shift on the keyboard and click on that particular patch. For example, I would like now to use exactly that color of the sky here, and I have been moved that color picker there. And now if I press Shift and click on that patch, we will get now that color as our source color. And now we can change those that particular color with those sliders. Okay, let's see how can we now use color lookup table to improve our photos. Let's start with this photo that we already have here. So first I will improve the lens correction, denoising. It's quite important to denoise your photo because the local color lookup table patches are quite narrow, and you can have some issues if you don't denoise it correctly. Okay, and now I would like to improve the exposure a little bit. Maybe also use tone equalizer just to brighten the shadows. I will use my own preset here. well, let me go a little bit higher with both. And now we can use sigmoid module to increase a little bit of contrast, especially in the highlights. And also color balance RGB to increase a bit the saturation, maybe also contrast a touch. Let's say about there. Now the photo looks quite nice, but I would like to darken a little bit that area with the mountain in the background. And now I can use color lookup table to do that. So first, I'll enable color picker and maybe choose some area in the sky here. With Shift, I can change that source color here to that exact color of the sky. And I will darken it a little bit. But as you can see, it's maybe too much. As you can see, we have some issues here. We also need to darken the next shade of the blue in the shadows. So let's do that just by clicking somewhere here maybe. And we can choose also that color. And we will darken it also a little bit. Maybe I will also use some of those bright areas here, some color there. So let me choose something there. And as you can see, he gives me now this patch, but I can use some other patch, for example, in the near here, this one. And now I can darken a little bit that one. And maybe I go back to this one and add some saturation there, just a touch, and also here, just a touch, not that much. And as you can see, we have now nice brightness and saturation in the mountains here. As you can see, before and after. That was just a small change, but it's quite huge improvement here. So let me see before and after. Let's start with lens correction, maybe color lookup table, and as last step, as you can see now, we have nice mountains there, and we have also the other areas of the photo quite bright. Okay, our next example. In this photo here, we can use a color lookup table to improve a little bit of local contrast of the photo. For example, I would like to improve the local contrast of those ripples in the sand. But first, lens correction and denoising. It's quite important. And I will also go a little bit with contrast higher in the sigmoid, especially in the highlights. And now we can use color lookup table. And first, I will use the brightest part of the ripples. I would like to darken it that just a bit. Okay, let's use that patch and darken it. Now we have a bit more colors there. And I will also like to improve the local contrast. So the next patch that I would like to use should be the darker area in those ripples. So it gives me the possibility to use the same patch, but I would like to use some other. Let's use this one here. And now this one is original, and it's of course brighter than that what we have just done. But we can now darken that one. And as you can see, we have immediately improved the local contrast of that area quite a lot. Maybe that's too much. Let me go a little bit back. Maybe that much. And what I can also do, I can also improve the color of that, I don't know how to say, snowboard. So let me use that, choose that color here. And darken it a little bit, maybe even that much. And just with those 3 patches, we have improved the photo quite a lot. Now I can go to color balance ZGP and increase even more the contrasts. Maybe a little bit of saturation, and we're good. And in sigmoid, we can go with target what a little bit higher, maybe about there. And we can compare it now before and after. Let's start with lens correction here. Take a snapshot, and you can see we have now improved the local contrast quite a lot here in the sand. So that's another possibility to use a color lookup table. Okay, next one. With this example here, we will like to do the opposite. We will like to calm down a little bit the texture. So let me first make some corrections here. Maybe I would like to increase the brightness of the table here. Just a touch, some kind of vignette. Not that much. Maybe there. And I would like to increase the contrast a bit with sigmoid, for example. And let me also do some saturation increasing here. Maybe also use a power function. And we have nice bright area here. I will also use tone equalizer one instance to bring back those details in the sky. Just a touch. And now, as you can see, we have here a nice green grass, which is quite dark, and we have also that yellow-orangey grass, the dry grass, which is much brighter. And we want to calm all that area, so we can use color lookup table and choose one area with those dry grass. Let's say this area here, and we can darken it a little bit and also change a little bit of color so that really well, just a touch, and maybe also to saturate that area quite a bit. But we don't want to change the desk here, so we can use one more patch just for that color here, and we are good. Maybe we can also increase the brightness of that just a touch, and maybe increase also saturation. As you can see now, just with that two patches, we have improved our photo quite a lot. So let me improve that even more. Maybe a bit more contrast here. Increase also saturation there, and go back to color, tone equalizer, and bring those clouds a bit down in brightness, and use sigmoid just to improve the contrasts in the highlights. And as you can see, that is quite subtle, but quite important change. Now we can see that desk with plates here quite nicely. So let's see before and after. Where do we start? Let's start with exposure. And the last step. And now our desk, or our main scene, looks much more calmer. Okay, next one. In this photo, we can use two instances of color lookup table to improve two different areas of the photo. And to be able to show you what I mean, let me start with normal collections here. Maybe we can now use sigmoid and improve the contrasts, let's say about there. And now I would like to improve the sky and the other part of the photo separately. So we'll use color lookup table with drone mask. Maybe you can use this kind of mask here, that gradient mask. And First, I would like to darken the sky a little bit. Let me choose some area in the sky to darken it a tiny bit, maybe also increase a little bit saturation there. Then I can go to the next area here, maybe, and also darken that, and also increase a touch of saturation there. Then this one, okay, maybe not too much darkening, but we can increase the saturation there. Not too much, just a touch. And I would say we are good in the sky. There's a subtle change, and that is enough to have some differentiation in the colors of the sky. And now we can use the next instance of color lookup table to improve the bottom part of the photo. And this time we can use the raster mask from color lookup table first instance, but we need to toggle the mask. And now can start to improve the bottom part. So first thing, what I would like to do, I would like to brighten a little bit that reflection, that orange reflection on the water. And so we can choose some kind of area with that color and just brighten it a touch and maybe increase just a touch, really not that much, the saturation. You can see now I have nice brightness here, and we have a nice separation between the person that stays here and the sea. The next thing what I can do, I can use some darker area on the water and colder color, maybe just darken it a touch and also increase the saturation there. Maybe just a touch green. Oh, that's too much. There's a small amount of green. Okay, that is even better. Now we can play with those stones here. We can darken this area a little bit to increase the contrast there, and maybe brighten some kind of, let's use this patch, whatever, just to add some contrast on those stones. And maybe a touch more saturation there. And we're practically good. We don't need to do much more. Maybe we can increase a little bit overall contrast in the highlights. And I would like to have a focus on that area here, this area. So I can use now color balance RGB and add some drone mask. It doesn't need to be precise, maybe like that. Toggle the polarity and darken the rest. Just a touch, maybe about there. And now we can use the next instance and increase the contrast a bit. Maybe just a touch of saturation, not that much. We don't want to have oversaturated photo. And let me also increase, oh, that's too much, the target white, so that we have a nice differentiation between the sky and the rest of the photo. So let's see before and after. We can start here with lens correction, take snapshot and go to the last step. And as you see, it's quite a nice improvement. Okay, the next. Color lookup table can help us to deal with quite difficult cases like this one. Here we have a nice tree with spring blossoms, but it is embedded in the surrounding, and we need to deal with that. We need to isolate that tree or those nice flowers, which is quite difficult with masking. But we can use color lookup table to improve that. So let me start first with lens corrections and maybe denoising just for the case. Then I will also like to improve the contrast in the photo. Oh, maybe not to go, don't need to go that far. And now we need to improve the brightness because this area here and this also are fighting for attention. So we'll need to deal with that first. We can use different modules. I will use exposure module one more instance because I didn't use it for a long time. That method we can now use two zone masks or two gradient masks, one here on the bottom and one on the top, maybe about there. And now we need to combine them. Excuse me. First, I would like to toggle the polarity of the masks. And now we need to combine those two masks with Boolean operation. And this time this will be the difference. As you can see now we have bottom part and upper part masked. And now we can lower the exposure here. Okay, let's see what can be the next step. Now we can improve a little bit the contrast with color balance RGB and also add some saturation because we want to recognize the colors quite good. Now we can use color lookup table and play with the colors here. So let's use this one and darken it, but that wouldn't be enough. As you can see, we need to use another shade of the same color on the stone. So let's use this one here. It's quite near, and darken it also a little bit. And then we will need a few more. For example, this one here. Let's choose that one a little bit darker. Nice. And of course, we have here different colors on the stone that we also need to change. So we can use that patch also, and maybe I think it will be enough just to change the color of that stone. And let me go back and darken this one a little bit more. And maybe also change a bit the color. Yeah. And as you can see now, we have improved we have isolated the tree with the flowers. What we also can do, we can change or brighten a little bit the blossoms. Just a touch, and maybe add some saturation there. Not that much. We need to be careful not to go too far. And now that it's nicely isolated, we can improve the photo even better by using contrast equalizer to get rid of that coarse local contrast, maybe something like that. And now we can improve overall contrast even better. And I think I can use next instance of color balance RGB to add a vignette to that area. Similar to what I have done with exposure module. But this time we will only concentrate on those flowers. And I need to toggle the polarity of the mask and go down a little bit with brightness. Yeah, much better. And you can see now we can recognize the tree quite nicely, and we don't get distracted through the surroundings of the tree. So let's see before and after. Let's start with lens correction. It's almost not recognizable here. And now with all those changes, mostly through that color lookup table, you can see how nicely we have calmed down the surrounding. Of course, we have changed the colors of some areas, so it doesn't look natural as before, but I don't care. I want to have that nice isolation of the subject. Okay, you see, color lookup table can be very helpful also in difficult situations like that. Okay, the next one. Here we have one example of usage of a color lookup table in portrait photography. And in this case, we will like to get rid of that shiny areas in the skin caused mostly by the cream. And let me start with lens correction, denoising. And I would also like to color balance, white balance, excuse me, the photo. Let me use her teeth to get the correct colors. And now we can improve a little bit exposure, maybe also a bit contrasts with sigmoid. And now we need to deal with these areas of the skin. So you can now use color lookup table and choose that area, the first part of that area. You can darken it a little bit, and maybe also to change the hue of that area, but that won't be enough. We can use one more somewhere here in the near of that first point, and can darken a little bit the rest. Let's say about, oh, that's too much, about there, and also change the colorization of that area so that our skin tones are fitting quite nicely. So you can see we have now done quite a good job of improving that. Now let me use color balance RGB to improve the contrast a bit more, maybe also include a bit saturation. And I will use just for a little bit more makeup retouch module this time, because we have enhanced, or we have corrected those areas. We will use retouch module after color lookup table, and I don't want to spend that much time, just a few small corrections. Let me see how the mask looks like. Okay, we can use blur and correct just a little bit some skin tones. Let me increase the radius, and now we can work in continuous mode and improve the rest real quick. I don't want to spend that much time on that. Let's say about there. And now we have a nice skin tones. Okay, let me improve a bit more contrasts, and I would say we're good to go. So let me see before and after. Let's start with lens correction, take a snapshot. And the last step, as you can see, now we have nice skin color on skin tone without that shiny areas. Okay, what else can we do? Color lookup table can also be quite useful for color grading or even creating presets for that. And we will use this example and try to do something. So lens correction, denoising, maybe sigmoid, improve a little bit the contrasts. And I will go in color balance RGB, also improve some saturation here. And we can now use color lookup table to create some nice preset, for example, for portraits or whatever. And I will start with lip of the woman. Maybe we can darken it a little bit and also increase a bit saturation there. Something like that. Then we can use, for example, some darker shade of the skin. Darken it a little bit more and also add a bit more red there. Then what we also can do, we can change the color of the sky. First, we can darken the sky a little bit and maybe also change the color to something like magenta. What else we can do? We can also change the greens, for example. Give the greens maybe just a touch darkening and also give the greens some kind of a little bit bluish look, something like that. And maybe you can also use or change the shadows, color of the shadows. For example, we can use that color and change it to something more bluish also. Increase amount of blue there. And I don't know, I think we have some kind of look. And now we can save it as a preset. Let's say color grade. And now we can see how can we apply that to the other photos. Let's start with this one. So we can improve or make some corrections here, add some brightness in the photo and also increase contrasts. I don't need to spend that much time on this one. And I will now apply our preset color grade. And as you can see, it looks quite interesting. Maybe we don't need that much contrast here. Let me improve that and in the highlights. And it looks quite interesting. So let's try somewhere else, whatever. Let's try this one. Balance correction, denoising. I don't think we need to improve anything else here. And we can use color lookup table, color grade. It looks quite interesting. Maybe just a touch more contrast and saturation. And we have something like Kodachrome here. What else? Another portrait. I think we don't need to do anything here except to apply the preset. And as you can see, it looks quite nice. Maybe just increase a little bit saturation and we're good. Somewhere else, this one maybe. By this one, we need to improve the white balance first. And now we can try to apply our preset. And it looks quite nice, as you can see. Okay. Maybe touch and power function. So let me see again. Yeah. So as you can see, you can play with color lookup table quite a lot, and you can improve your photos and also apply some nice preset if you want. And I will suggest, highly suggest to if you didn't use it, to use it, because you can improve your photography quite a lot with color lookup table. Okay, that will be enough for this episode. And if you have some questions, feel free to ask in the comment section or go to the pixels.us forum discussion forum and ask your questions there. So thank you for watching, and until the next time.